This is the page that leads to whatever graph you've ever seen me use on this channel. It is absolutely a one-time work thing. You do it once, you're free for life. So there you have it, everything you need to know. Alright people, welcome back to the final page of the dashboard. This is the dashboard itself. However, this was not supposed to be the original video. I had recorded the original video, but I noticed like I had a lot of noise in the background. Plus, I already made some changes recently to the dashboard, and I think this is way more together. So I decided, what the hell, since there is noise there, there's no need to put it into a video. Scrap it up and make a better video about the whole situation. So here it is, the dashboard page, the very final page, the boss of the bosses. This is the page where you get to see everything. This is the page that leads to whatever graph you've ever seen me use on this channel. Now, before this, we had the currency page where we talked about the individual currency and how to get yourself to find out all the information for that specific currency. I mean, individually. The only difference is you just change the name and you increase the SPIL and you rerun the calculation. It will work fine. You had the filter page. This page just filters the news by name and gives you the unique for each currency. Like in the case of Euro here, we can see we only have a total of 42 sets of news events repeated over time. We have the news data input page. Now, this was the page that had the most work done. Like, this was the page that had everything, every single thing, the most work done. This is where you do the entire real work on the calendar. The data cleanup page, now this is where you clean up the data, make it conducive enough for Excel to be able to understand before you put it into the news data page. And first page ever, which is by far the backbone of the entire work we see here, is the news page. Now, this is just a page where we got the individual news name. We got the news impact, which is event rank. We got the actual against forecast. So there are some news where the actual greater than forecast is bullish. Some others are bearish. So you get the situation, the sentiment basically. And then you get a type of news. Now, this was something that I had to explain at the beginning, the different types of news. Basically, I graded my own into 3. You could grade it into whatever you feel like is best. And then among those types, what are the rank of the individual news in those types? And then last but not least is the indicator rank, right? The indicator rank. So it's a multiplication of the impacts and the type, which is the event rank and the type of the news. That way you get a proper perspective of how strong a particular news ought to be if it is bullish or bearish. Now, heading back to the dashboard page, what changes did I do? Well, it's absolutely nothing. I just moved every other dashboard into one unified page. That is it. And over here, you see it's just the majors showing up. It's because it's filtered. I can unfilter them. However, I won't do that for this video just to make it short. Now, this page in particular, what is it with this page? Well, this page is, I'm telling you, the simplest page you will meet. The only thing is some part of it is manual, and that is the only part of that's difficult. The manual part of the work. Apart from that, every other thing is literally simple. So let's dive into it. So before we move on, if you're new here and you've been watching this entire playlist, obviously you have learned one of the best things you've ever learned in the forex industry from a newbie like myself. So I'd like to tell you, do me a favor, do the channel a favor, hit the subscribe button. We're on our way to get monetized. This is an unmonetized channel. If you are looking at this when we're monetized, then do well to hit that subscribe button because you definitely want to be seeing more information from this particular channel. Without further ado, I don't like to waste your time. Let's just get into it. So the very first thing here is what you notice. We have a dashboard called overall. We have another one called 14 days, and then we have one called changes. Now, you don't necessarily need to make yours like this. You could have for someone who's a day trader or intraday trader. You just need a news for the past 2-3 days or a week at most. For a swing trader, you need a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Matter of fact, you need the whole thing, the whole shebang, right? And the reason why I use 14 days, now, unlike the actual market where we have 5 active trading days, it's supposed to be 10 days. This is reality. We have Mondays to Fridays, right? Mondays to Sundays. And in reality, 2 weeks is 14 days. So a news that came out on Friday, yes, it has impact, but you don't expect a news on Friday, which is a low impact news or medium impact news, to have serious impact in the market on Monday when another news is coming out, because it's over 2 days old. People have finally adjusted to it and gotten used to the situation. So in that case, swing traders, 14 days is fine. For higher scope traders, position traders, you don't even need the 14 days. This is not useful. For intraday traders, I would advise you need a smaller time frame. You need something like 3 days, 4 days, or 5 days. And that is something you create in the currency space. So just like the way we created the 14 days, you're going to create your own probably 3, 4, 5 days. And that way you can tell when the market is beginning to dance to your tune or in a certain direction. You can even do 1 day if you're like, if you trade by the minute. So you can do 1 day and then it will tell you the sentiment of the news based on the last day news release. Now heading into this situation here, how do you create this dashboard? Well, this dashboard is, like I said, extremely simple. All you need to do is you simply hit the equal to sign just like this, right? You hit the equal and then you go to the currency page. In this case is the AUD, and I'm just going to select the overall strength, right? Click on the overall strength. You can see it has written AUD exclamation mark D3, and I'll just press enter. That way you can see it returns the exact number that is there. So even if that number changes tomorrow, it automatically changes here. And this is why I said it is absolutely a one-time work thing. You do it once, you're free for life. So let me just give you an example. You can see over here is saying 46.8%. So assuming I search for, let's say, some certain news, and let's just delete some certain news here. And now it is 52.5%. You see how this one was able to change by itself? It is the same situation we are going to see in the dashboard. You can see automatically changes by itself. And if I go back here and hit the return button, which is the Ctrl Z, back to where it belongs. That's simple. So you're doing that situation. That is just it. Equal to the overall. That is for the overall. For the leading, you do the same thing. Equal to, you go back to the page, select the leading, and you press the enter button. Like I said, it is manual. So you're going to have to do this like about 30 something times, because the total amount of blocks here is 32. Yeah. So 32 times. Now for your shorter time frame monitoring, because this is where the changes usually start from, you're going to have to do it again the same way. Equal to, you come back to the page and you select the very first one and you press the enter button. It returns the exact number that is there. So you're going to have to do that, and that will be another 32 times. So you're going to do this 64 times or so. Now you could run these changes if you want to or not. Now the thing with these changes is, for it to move up to 100% is crazy. For it to even get up to 70%, it is mad. You can see a lot of the things here look nearly neutral, right? It looks nearly neutral. I'm only looking at what is the current change. Like this page is just for me to see, all right, is the changes good or bad? Like in this case, you can see the British pound has it is the only thing here, not the only thing here, but the very first thing you observe here that has a change of slightly bullish. Basically, it is the only thing that is screaming green. And if you look up to the 14 days, right, you see it is slightly bullish, and you compare the bullishness of the strength of this particular news, or rather this particular situation, which is the leading score, against the leading score of the overall, you notice a very distinct change. And such a distinct change are things you should pay attention to, because those kind of changes are what leads to those massive change in direction in the market in trading. And you could just see a sudden huge candle coming up after such situation happens. And you can see it right here, slightly bullish was later figured out. So things like this, if I was trading the British pound against the USD when such kind of news came out or the situation changed to something like this, If I was shorting the market, I would become very careful. If I was long in the market, that is buying the British pound against the US dollar, I will become a bit more confident in my trade. That is how this works. Now, again, we've all done this top part, very easy. All you do is equal to and select the exact box you want to return. When it comes to the comparison page, because this is literally a comparison dashboard, what I'm doing here is just like before. We only know the strength of the base. Now, in this case, take note, the base currency is what is far more important when you are trading. When you are buying into a currency pair, you are literally buying the base currency against the quote currency. And if you are shorting, you are selling the base currency for the quote currency. So what it means is the base currency is far more important in that situation. And to get it is very simple. So how do I derive the strength? Well, I have to compare the strength of the base and the quote. To do that, what I simply do is I'm going to use the very first one, for example. I'm going to say equal to, now what is the base currency here? Is AUD, right? AUD. So I'm going to say equals to AUD divided by, if I divide by US dollar, right? Just divide by US dollar straight. I'm wrong. You can see it's showing me 81%, which is absolutely wrong compared to what you're seeing right here. So the correct way to do this is actually, you want to sum up the two strengths, right? You want to determine how much of the total strength is AUD. Now, if the total strength of AUD is more than half of the total strength of both currency, then you should know that AUD is stronger, right? And if the strength of AUD is less than the total strength of both currency, then AUD is, weaker. So let's do the maths again. We're going to say AUD plus USD, right? So we have a total of 104%. But AUD itself is just 46.81% of 104%. So how do you get that? You say AUD divided by the glorious sum, right? And what you have here is 40-something%. This is so much decimal places. I don't need that. So you have a 44.96%, meaning AUD makes up 44.96% of the total sum of AUD strength and the US dollar strength. In that case, it means the AUD strength is not as strong as the US dollar strength. If it was 50, it means they are 50-50. They are both a tug of war here. And then less than 50, obviously it is not as strong as the quote. Then above 50 means it is stronger than the quote. Now, if you should start doing this method, you would go through hell, to be honest. To make it short, what I then did was we created the formulas, right? The way we just made the formula. We wanted Excel to go do the looking for us. We didn't want to go look for. But before we headed there, this is what we did. I had to write out every single currency pair in the market. In this case, this is just the majors. If I clear this thing, we realize that every single 26 pair of this mix is all available. So all 28 pairs are here. I said 28, 26 the first time. So all 28 pairs are here. Now what I did was I did a formula where I would separate the base and the quotes. That way I can tell Excel to check for this base in this place and tell me the exact number I'm looking for, which is the same thing as the lookup formula we had before, a VLOOKUP or XLOOKUP. So how did we do that? We'll simply say equal to, first and foremost, this part, the pair name is manual. You have to enter it yourself. And then to get it, what you do is you say equal to, you type left and you select on the pair, put a comma and 3. So what you're basically saying is get me the first 3 characters in this place, right, from the left. And then this is how you get the base. For the quotes, rather than saying left, you then say right. So get me the first 3 characters on the right, starting from the right. So it's going to start counting D, A, C. So get me the first 3 characters of the words from the right. And there we have it, card. And when you do that, you would notice, because it's a table, don't forget, I'm always using table, right? Because it's a table, when you do that, it will automatically do it all the way down by itself. Same thing with a quote. For the pair value, which is minor or major, I did that personally on my own. Now we're going to apply the formula we just did. However, if we should start writing that formula the way it's supposed to be, it's going to be very long. Why? Because let's just write the very first formula. We're going to say X lookup, right? For the very first thing is the pair, right? The base currency among these words here, and then tell me the exact number of the overall it's supposed to have. And that, my dear friends, is it. It's written in figures. Let me change to decimal. There we have it. Decimal place in percentages. Sorry. It was in decimal, change it to percentages. And you see what percentage look like. It's returning this exact amount, right? Now, the next thing I want to do is, I want to do the same thing for the Canadian dollar. You're going to do the same thing for the Canadian dollar. And then by the time you look at it, you're going to have to be writing divided by X lookup, blah, 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 lots of stories, shenanigans, lots of stories. Now, what you do is you use the let formula, right? The let formula allows us to write this formula only once and then give it a name. And when we give it a name, all we need to do when we want to use that formula is to call on that name we give it, which makes it simple. So we could say something like this. So we could say let, you open the brackets and you call this, since this is base, we call it base. We put the comma and then we'll write the formula. Now we want to give the other one the name, so we'll call it quotes and then put the comma and you write up the formula again. So X lookup, in this case, select for the quotes, comma, the same, lines of text, comma, and then you tell it to look at the overall and you close bracket. Now I have written two formulas and I've given them names. The last part is now the actual formula itself, which was what we did before, but this time we're going to be doing it with the names. So we're going to say the base divided by the sum of base, comma, and quotes. And make sure you write it in the exact, what is it called? Caption. If it's capital letters, it should be capital letter. If it's small letter, it should be small letter. If you have capital letter in between, it should be the exact way you wrote it as its name. And you close the brackets, then you close the entire let bracket and you press the enter button. You see, it automatically, it does the entire math itself. Now, when you apply this formula at the top here, man, it's done. It's done for. It just applies itself all the way to the bottom. Now, this is for the overall, right? You could do the same thing for the 14 days dashboard, which is what I did here. Down here, in your case, maybe it's 3 days, 4 days, 1 day, whichever you prefer. You do it here. And then for the changes, what I did in the changes, matter of fact, the changes formula is, this is something I prefer to just keep to myself. But however, I think you guys should know about this, right? You guys should know about this. So the changes formula is a formula that is quite complex to understand, but it is, underneath it is actually very simple. So what this formula all entails is, I'm trying to give it range. Again, like the first time we had range. I wanted to give it a range. So for example, I had said equal to, let's say, the AUD minus the 14 days changes. That is like, it's basic, right? But what am I getting here? I'm getting 5%, which is, again, not correct. Now, if you try to go through the method we just go through, which is saying, okay, what is the real deal you want? Is the 14 days, right? The 14 days divided by the sum of, you're trying to check if the strength of the 14 days is above the strength of both days put together. Well, this is what you will end up getting, 46.8%. Now, you can see that it's different from this, right? How come? Why is that? Why is it like that? Well, this is where the thing is, right? This is where the thing is. Now, for the changes, the difference is you're not going to be applying the equal to sign the way you did for the first one. You can see that is a totally different formula in here. Now, the formula in here is this first thing we just did here, right? Over the 14 days divided by the sum of the 14 days and the overall is not completely wrong, but it's not also right. Why? So you cannot be negating the strength of today from the strength of the overall. It is like saying 10% of the news, the strength of 10% of the news minus the strength of 100% of the news, which you can see right now, that doesn't even sound logical. So what this formula entails is this. I'm telling him to give me a max number, right? A max number first and foremost. So the max number of, right, of the very first thing is going to do is I'm doing the exact math we just did, right? The overall minus the the 14 days overall minus the overall page first and foremost, right? And then I'm multiplying it by 0.5. And what I get there is I am getting, you know, kind of a negative value, right? A negative value. However, I'm going to add a 0.5 to his head. And what I get next is, let me show you what you get next. What you get next is, it's still negative. And then I'm going to say, what is the max number that is possible from that, right? The max number is 0.4718. Automatically, it is now 47.18%. And then the minimum number based on 1, right? Minimum number is 1. The maximum number is 0. That is what this means. So I'm putting it into the range of between 1 and 0. What is the strength of this market? That is what this entire formula entails. I know it sounds confusing, but someday you're going to come back to this video, watch it again, and you'll fully understand. I am simply, again, let me say, I am simply trying to put the strength between 0 and 1. Not those 5, 2, 3, negative 8, minus 10, minus 20. No. I want it to show me a strength of either 0%, 50%, 100%, and everything in between, but nothing negative and nothing too small. So all of that is what I did in this place. Now, the sweet thing about this place is just like the other tables, this is working like a table. You do the equal to sign, you select both of them, do the formula, and you press enter. It is going to populate itself all the way down. And you drag sideways, pull it down, you have yourself a good situation. Now, I think there's a little bit of error here because, yep, there is an error here, as you can see. You can see they are all showing me almost the same thing. They're all showing me the same thing, basically, actually. And I'm just noticing that here right now. And I'm loving the fact that we just noticed it. So you can see now what happens here. Now that I'm correcting this formula, you can see the changes page, you're going to start noticing lots and lots of deviation. But you will not notice any deviation on this page. Why? Because I didn't even use these references here when I was doing it. Instead, why did I not use these references? This reference for me here is different from the entire situation. Why is it different? Now, this is it. In this place, I am not comparing the changes of AUD to the changes of British pound. No, I am comparing the direct changes of AUD USD in 14 days to the changes of AUD USD overall directly, not through changes strength. And it is going to be wrong if you calculate it. Now, my advice for you, see this changes page, leave it alone. Do not even go there. The changes part, do not even go there yet. Maybe when you finally understand and use the dashboard long enough, you would find the importance of this. You'll come back to this video and you apply it. You would notice it is better done this way. I don't even know how to explain it very well right now, but it is absolutely better done this way. So again, my advice, leave the changes page, focus on the overall and then the time frame you're looking for. And that way, when you look at the time frame you're looking for, you could either use this to determine if you want to start entering the market immediately, or you could use this, the overall, and decide, okay, this market seems like it's going in a certain direction overall, and should I just stick with it? You can see opposing situations here with the British pound US dollar on both sides. You can see the leading score overall is slightly bearish, but currently with the recent change, it is heavily bullish. So over a period of time, if this turns bullish because this is also constantly remaining bullish, then you should be buying. Something like the US dollar, Japanese yen, obviously, you can see they are both correlating with each other strongly. And the changes is still telling you it is even becoming bullish. So when you go to the chart, you will most likely be looking for a bullish signal. Whether you're trading supply and demand, market structure, CMR, did I say CMR? Sorry, SMC, Smart Money Concepts. Jesus Christ, I've butchered that name. And then any other strategy whatsoever you're trading, break of highs, break of structure, trend lines, name it. You're just going to be looking for a bullish trend or a bullish opening in your style of trading on that currency pair to capitalize on until the fundamental changes hands. So with all of this, I'd like to tell you guys, this is the final end of this dashboard tutorial. I think the last page is not something that is difficult. The last page, matter of fact, is just how you display information. Now, this information is wrong. All of it, absolutely all of it is wrong. I need to redo this dashboard after I made the changes. However, to just do that, all you simply do is you select the entire situation like this. You go to Insert, and you select on either recommended chart, or if you know the kind of chart you prefer, you just simply insert the chart yourself. Boom. Booyah. There it is. I have my charts standing still, beautiful and nice. However, I don't think this chart is going to do the job. I think a combo chart does the job better. But the overall staying as line, right? The overall staying as a good line, while the rest of them remains, you know, clustered columns, yeah, something like this, or you could have it stay together with each other. This have its own, something like that. So there you have it. Everything you need to know. Everything you need to know about the dashboard, everything you need to know about the entire setup I have here. So easy, so quick, so smooth, visually appealing, nothing more. There's nothing more. All of this is just the after story. You can then decide on what you want to do. You could take this to Power BI, make it a visual. You could take it and leave it here and use this visual instead. This is also going to update when changes occur. For example, again, let's go to card. We're going to delete some lots of news. Come back here. You see, automatically it changes by itself. You see that? Simple. You don't have to stress or work your ass out to achieve this part of the job. See, it changes back immediately. So that way, you know, these are leading. Everything yellow is leading, or red is leading, brownish, red, whichever one. Everything gray is coincidental. Everything yellow is lagging. And you can see some currency have better lagging strength than others. You could prefer to do this with the existing comparison dashboard if you want to. Anything you want to do at this point, you've literally finished with the dashboard. You've finished with it. I just want to show you guys one last thing. I think where the hell is that composed chart? Let's see. Combined. I really wanted the combined chart. Yeah, combo. There it is. I can't use that. Okay, let's just use the column first. And then we are going to change it to combined chart. And well, I don't see any reason you're using the combined chart here. I mean, it does show everything here. You could delete the rest situation if you don't want it. But when you make it big enough, you start to see all that information. So that way, you have for yourself every currency, every mix, every whatever that comes with it. So, thank you all for watching. And if you watched all the way to this situation or at this level, I'd like to say thank you. I'm filled with joy showing people this dashboard. It was a long creation for me, but I think it's worth it if you're a trader to have something like this that tracks the information and gives you a sentiment, which is by far the biggest problem a lot of traders have in the market. So, peace. See you guys on another one.